at D&L Window Tinting. Like how it can keep you cool in the summer, the safety it can provide, and enhanced privacy. But basically, I want to tell you how to get it simply because I said so.
D&L Window Tinting. They put the shades on sun. With 2 locations at 2200 East Joppa Road and 10811 Pulaski Highway. No appointment necessary. Celebrity voices impersonated. Poorly.
They said Joe Flacco didn't have the right stuff. They said Ray Lewis wouldn't make a full recovery. The NFL experts said the Ravens couldn't beat the Colts, the Broncos, or the Patriots.
Yeah, I just don't think they have what it takes.
They said the Ravens couldn't win the Super Bowl, that they didn't have the right stuff. Well, just like the Ravens, Site Support Services does have the right stuff. For all of your commercial HVAC and electrical needs, call Site Support Services, the Liebert specialist, at 410-771-0911. Or visit us on the web at sitesupportservices.com. If you want it done right, call Site.
This is Don Mellinger, founder of Site Support Services. If you want it done right, call Site.
That's Site Support, S-I-T-E support. Online at sitesupportservices.com. If you want it done right, call Site.
410-771-0911.
Call Site.
As you know, Towson Place Liquors has been giving WNST listeners 10% off any purchase of $20 or more for quite some time now.
Towson Place Liquors, you dummy.
Oh.
See, now those same owners have opened up a new store in Ellicott City at 5725 Richards Valley Road. Angels Cut Wine and Spirits. They'll be offering you the same 10% off $20 or more, and you'll enjoy the same great service you've enjoyed at Towson Place Liquors.
Call 410-461-1141.
Angels Cut Wine and Spirits in Ellicott City.
Live from the WNST studios in Towson. Brought to you by the Zone Superstore, where the Purple Nation shops. We return to the MobTown Sports Beat with Thurl Nelson. This is the MobTown Sports Beat. Here's Thurl Nelson.
Welcome back, MobTown Sports Beat, 410-481-1570, the number, WNST.net, the website. Just about 20 minutes remain before we turn things over to reality radio here. Glenn Clark, afternoon reality check. For now, it is me. It's Alan McCallum joining me, talking a little Oriole baseball and
having a little baseball philosophical discussion off there.
Yeah, you know, it's one of the great things. You know, it's funny to me because the football fans, you know, you have sports fans and then you have football fans. Not to say the sports fans can't be football fans, but there are football fans out there that aren't otherwise sports fans. And you know, that anytime anybody wants to bash baseball, forget about that philosophy. Anytime anyone wants to bash baseball, they begin with the lack of action. And it's funny that you could take a football game, and I'm told by way of the actual plays that take place, you know, run the clock down to about 12 to 15 minutes worth of actual action, and the rest of that 3-hour process is spent sort of sitting around. Whereas in baseball, you know, there's a pitch every supposed to be 30 seconds or so, right? I mean, it goes a little longer than that. When Josh Beckett is on the mound, it's about 1:15. It feels like in between pitches, but in general, you know, there are pitches happening all the time. There is always action, and then beyond that, again, the season is the game as well. The aftermath of the game, the mathematics of what we have to do versus what they have to do, the day-by-day movement of the pennant race is all part of the excitement of baseball. And, you know, it happens at a bit of a slower pace, but to say that it has less action than any other sport, for my money, just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the reverse of what you were saying. I'm a baseball fan that's not necessarily an overall sports fan.
There aren't a lot of you around, Alan McCallum.
Huh?
There aren't a lot of you around.
No, I would be a relic from a different age, as it turns out. You know, for me, the action in baseball, so much of the tension and drama happens before a pitch is ever thrown. And watching how guys are setting up, what they're trying to do to their opponent, can they execute that successfully? Can the pitcher set up a hitter to shut him down? Can a hitter not necessarily outthink, but outreact a pitcher? I mean, those are the things.
Did I do this for the result that I was hoping for now, or did I do this to set up something that I intend to do in a couple of minutes?
And also sacrifice. For the good of the team. Look, to me, much like life, and I don't mean to get too philosophical about it, baseball is a game played by individuals in an individual fashion, but within a team concept. No matter what you believe about the game, everything you do affects the people around you.
Sure.
And I think that's very much like life. And to me, watching baseball and, again, the moments around the actual action are just as exciting and maybe more compelling in a lot of ways. And, just from the actual action of the game, you hit a routine fly ball. That happens. Is that any different from, 2nd and 8 and, the quarterback grounding the football
Right.
not to get tackled? So to me, there's a ton of excitement in the sport. Bases loaded, 2 outs in the 7th inning, down by 2 with 3 runners on. How do you 3-2 pitch? Everybody's going.
Yeah.
Is there anything more exciting than that in the world? I don't know.
Well, and even as you said, in a much more subtle way, the lack of what we perceive as patience on this Oriole team right now, that's going to affect everyone also. The fact that you had, I'll say Mark Reynolds. I was going to say, I wasn't going to bring up his name today also, but you came in and poked me with it a little bit. But you have a Mark Reynolds, you have a Nick Markakis, you have a Brian Roberts out there that are willing to take pitches, that are willing not to get too far ahead of themselves, that might lay off a pitch that they like very much early in the count, simply for the sake of being able to look over a guy's arsenal maybe in the first at-bat.
Right.
Gives other guys opportunities to face the bullpen in the 7th, to face the bullpen in the 6th perhaps, instead of having to wait until the 9th when a team can turn to their closer and get things done. So, yeah, subtleties about the game. Now, speaking of Mark Reynolds, we were talking a little bit about him and whether or not and this was before you came in, whether or not the move to part company with him boiled down to money. We had a caller who
Yes.
asked it, and the Orioles have tried to sell us otherwise, that he just wasn't the guy that
Yes.
they saw as a good fit. And, Joe Saunders was another move that you start to ask, well, does it boil down to money? And the Orioles, maybe with Joe Saunders much more than they could with Mark Reynolds, can sit back and say, well, wait a minute. We have a starting rotation. We have 4 guys that we feel are pretty well solid, cemented in. And then we have 4 guys behind them, and any one of whom could be our 5th starter on opening day, and any one of whom could step in and fill in for a guy for an extended period if need be, when those situations arise.
And when Jason Hamill gets let go at the end of the season, it will be because of money as well.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. Well, and so, when the Orioles say that, and then, part company with Joe Saunders as they do, Joe Saunders, who pitched, arguably the biggest game in the Orioles season last year, right?
In the last 15 years for the Orioles.
One chance to continue their playoff run, and he was the guy that they sent to the mound against the Texas Rangers. And so, against Yu Darvish at that, and he gave, all of the excitement that we think of that came part and parcel to that Yankees series we don't get without the effort of Joe Saunders, and they were good enough to say, well, fair enough. But done is done. And this is a kid who grew up loving the Orioles, by the way,
Right.
which just sort of made the story that much better. If they're out, and I'm going to use a term that you hate, but I don't have anything else off the top of my head. If they're out kicking the tires on Aaron Harang right now, then how do you reasonably part company with Joe Saunders if not for monetary reasons only?
You don't. Look, if you're asking me is Joe Saunders a great loss for the Orioles organization, honestly, I don't. Not really.
No.
I think Joe Saunders is a capable pitcher, and he did a far better job than I expected. But I can name 10 guys who can do what Joe Saunders did, essentially, in baseball. That won't cost you a ton. It costs you a little. I'm not sure that Joe Saunders wanted to come back because, quite frankly, Camden Yards is not the ideal place for him to pitch for 35 starts during the course of a season. Seattle is a far better option for him than Camden Yards. That short porch, 364 in left center, for a crafty, a little better than crafty lefty, is a terrible omen of doom.
And lefty can be overstated, though.
Absolutely. Now, that said, if you're going to tell me that Joe Saunders, you couldn't find the cash to bring him back, but you're going to trade for Aaron Harang, who, okay, I guess is as serviceable a guy.
Somehow he gets it done. Somehow.
Now, the argument will be, hey, he pitched in Cincinnati in the Great American Home Run ballpark. where he's used to short fences everywhere, and he can find his way to making a successful run with the Orioles. I guess you could make that argument. I would argue that the National League is an inferior league from a pitching standpoint, just in the sense that you can still challenge guys with fastballs and 3-1 counts in the National League and still have an opportunity to get past them. Not to mention that you don't have a DH, and the American League is a rough spot for that, and that Aaron Harang ultimately is not a guy. Let me just say this. If I had a choice between Joe Saunders and Aaron Harang, it wouldn't be close.
Yeah. Well, he strikes out an inordinate number of guys for a guy that doesn't throw hard. That's always been the odd thing, and he's not left-handed. And so, even going back to those first couple of years in Oakland, where it was kind of cups of coffee at the end of seasons, they were just starting to work him in. You look at 16 games started, 78 innings, 64 strikeouts, close enough to strike out an inning to be sort of interesting. Now 1.57 whip to go along with that as well, and that's sort of who he is also. But again, when you're scouting him by the box score, when he goes out and throws 7 innings and strikes out 6 guys or strikes out 8 guys in a 7-inning stretch, you start to think that maybe this is one of those big power pitchers. You look at the statistics. He's 6'7", 260 pounds, and you start to think that this is a guy who's bringing power to the mound. And then all of a sudden, you see him, and he tops out at about 91, 92, and I'm not exactly sure how he gets guys out. And as you said, Joe Saunders was never a guy that was lighting the radar guns on fire. Joe Saunders was never a guy that sent you home from the ballpark and said, man, you got to go watch this guy. And yet he was quietly effective enough to be just what the Orioles needed. And let's not forget that, part of what the Orioles had to do last year was get a 6th guy into the rotation. And Saunders, maybe more than anyone else, sort of fit that role. If you're telling me that, look, we have too many pitchers for Joe Saunders to have any role on this team, I buy it. I'll buy it because of all the things that the Orioles have tried to sell us over the offseason, that one actually seems to be most based in reality.
So how many games did Aaron Harang start last year?
Last year?
Yes.
31. 179.2 innings pitched, 1.4 whip, 131 strikeouts in 179 innings, 167 hits, and where's the walk number? 85 walks. Almost a half a walk an inning.
He's 30. He's going to be 35 in May. He's pitched in the National League virtually his entire career, and I don't know. I think those splits changed dramatically in the American League. Again,
right? That's in Chavez Ravine.
I know. I felt the same thing about Jason Hamill, so I could certainly be wrong. But again, I don't.
Yeah, you don't have magic powder here. What you did with Hamill is amazing. What you got out of Wei Yin Chen last year, improbable. What you have managed to get, what you got from Joe Saunders at the end of last season, unfathomable perhaps. You can't just count yourself as a team that's going to do that with everyone.
No, and again, if you want to argue that Jason Hamill was in his window where at that age, pitchers start to flourish and figure it out with the kind of stuff he had, not to mention that he added a pitch. That's a sellable point. And Aaron Harang is at 30, soon to be 35. He's on the downslope. He's going to the back end. So he's. I mean, you certainly not going to tell me you're bringing him in as a number 1 guy. Essentially, he becomes your Dana Eveland.
I was going to say, can you stash him in after making 31 starts for the Dodgers last year? Can you stash him in AAA and say, your time is coming. Hurry up and wait.
I suppose.
I mean, I guess no one else is out there beating his door down right now.
The question is, how many options does he have at this point? I would imagine that at his age, he probably doesn't have any left.
No, for sure. He would have to be a guy that they would they would have to get his agreement to be willing to move back and forth or to take an assignment there to begin with, and sort of take that opportunity when it comes. But again, it just if you have genuine interest in Aaron Harang, and maybe they don't, maybe they are just kicking tires, man.
Again, the frustration for me is not the Orioles make moves that are all describable, that you can sort of define, that you can sort of defend, but
they could all default back to money too.
There comes a point when you say, and again, I'm not talking about going after a guy like Josh Hamilton, because the Orioles are at a tenuous point in their organization. They are still building. But the other piece to this is that they have the majority of their best talent at the major league level right now. And that window, here's another word we use a lot, the window doesn't last very long for that.
Okay.
So if you're going to tell me they have 2 or 3 good years with this group left where they can make serious runs.
Are we already past these guys, though? I mean, are we already at a point where you start to say,
No.
Our time is Bundy and Gosman. Our time is, Adam Jones maturing into a veteran Major League Baseball player capable of leading a team.
I mean, these guys aren't 30 yet. I mean, Jones, Markakis been around forever. He's not 30 yet.
Yeah.
Brian Roberts' time has passed.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think of anybody else whose time is past. Nolan Reimold's time will be passed if he doesn't get it done this year.
Well, and Matt Wieters, as you mentioned, has a clock that, at least for now, moves faster than most.
Right. So, I mean, their time hasn't passed, but the clock is surely ticking. And if you're going to make the most of these guys right now, and quite frankly, as we've been talking about, the American League East is open. The Yankees are not what they once were. The Red Sox window has largely closed. Not to say they can't be good,
right?
But they're not that juggernaut that they once were.
And they probably ain't going to stay that way forever.
Nobody is. So you can talk all you want about the Orioles not taking the run because they're not ready, but I think the question would be, if not now, when? With the
if not us, who?
With the talent that they have in place, a few ticks here and there could make this club a much better bargain for getting a chance to get into the postseason. And as you know, getting into the postseason, anything can happen.
In the 5 minutes or so remaining, Al, you been watching much World Baseball Classic?
I watched about 3 innings against Brazil and Cuba on Saturday night after getting home, and it was amazing to me that the Brazilian team, almost everybody on the Brazilian team looked to be of Asian descent to me. But other than that, I haven't seen a lot of it yet, no.
Yeah, Jonathan Scope, 1 for 9, did hit a home run the other day. Gives us a little reason to be hopeful. I guess he's really the only guy right now that you find yourself inherently, pressed to watch. Alan de San Miguel, I had to go look up his. I knew he was the catcher for Australia, but he's a guy that came out of the Orioles organization, and so he's another that we have eyes on right now. But not a lot of reasons as yet for Oriole fans to go and watch. But Scopes, starts off 0 for 3 with 2 Ks, comes back with an 0 for 3 with 1 K, I believe, and then game number 3 goes 1 for 3, picks up a home run, 2-run shot, I believe. So we'll give him a little credit for that. And is he a guy? Well, let me ask this, because we always talk about the fact that the WBC serves as a potential distraction. It keeps guys away from spring training, keeps guys away from the thumbs of the team that actually has designs on him in a year in which you're out to see if Roberts is durable enough to just go play. And the Orioles have clearly shown a desire to do that. And so far, to his credit, Roberts has responded. I feel it's important to add that caveat as well. But is it helpful for a guy like Jonathan Scope, who finds himself probably, 3rd or 4th in the hierarchy of guys who should get some playing time right now? We would guess that, Casillas is going to make the Major League club. We probably wouldn't guess that Flaherty will, but he's at least in the conversation right now. Probably has a better chance than Scope at making it. So all of these guys sort of command at bats or looks over Jonathan Scope. So for a player like him, is it almost ideal to have this opportunity to go out and just play baseball daily?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I mean, there are discussions right now in Texas about Jerks and Profar and Mike Olt and what to do with those guys. You don't want young guys just sitting on the bench. If you want them to make inroads into being everyday players, whether it be at the major league level or at the minor league level, they need to play. They need to play as often as possible. So, I mean, if you're asking, is Jonathan Scope better off without the distractions of whether he can get to the big leagues or not in 2013 and playing in World Baseball Classic? Sure. I mean, I don't think that's a problem. In terms of the Orioles, let me say this. And Brian Roberts has responded, but if something were to happen, I think Ryan Flaherty would be ahead of Alexi Casilla in terms of starting at second base. But if Brian Roberts is healthy, Alexi Casilla is far more likely to be on the roster than Ryan Flaherty, because Alexi Casilla, look, the reason they tried, there's no question in my mind, the reason that Duquette traded Robert Andino was to separate the love affair between Showalter and Andino, because Robert Andino, for all of his heroics on occasion, is a backup player. And he didn't think so, and apparently Buck didn't always think so either. So Alexi Casilla, in theory, should know who he is and what he is. And that puts him in a position to be a great – he's Jeff Rebele.
Oh, and if Flaherty's not going to play, then you send him somewhere where he will.
Right.
And he has options.
But if Ryan Flaherty has an opportunity – if there's an open spot at second base to start the year, there's little question in my mind that Ryan Flaherty would be the starting second baseman as it stands right now. And let me say this. The early talk out of spring training is that Ryan Flaherty's looked really good at shortstop too. So, look out, Alexi Casilla, because if he proves that he can handle defensively all of the spots on the infield, then Ryan Flaherty becomes much more attractive in terms of being the guy that stays on the bench. But again, I would rather him be down and playing every day somewhere in the minor leagues, probably AAA.
If you're him, would you rather go play in AAA every day and bide your time knowing that an opportunity is likely coming, or travel with the big club and stay in the great hotels and ride the bench most of the time?
Well, I think every player's going to tell you they'd rather be in the big leagues.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know that's an argument to make. But in terms of what's better for his future, I think the minor leagues would probably be better.
That's where
sense.
Buck would probably rather have him right now as well. That's going to do it for us for the day. Thanks to my man, Alan McCallum, joining us, talking a little baseball. Also joining us today, Raymond Carter, a free agent rookie running back who was in a couple of camps last year looking for an opportunity. Of course, Tuesday being the day Brett Dickinson joins us in studio as well. All of that and more available for your consumption at your convenience in the buyatoyota.com audio vault at WNST.net. Want to tell you about our friends at Planet Fitness. You can make it your gym for just $10 per month. They're open 24 hours. They have 16 locations in and around Baltimore and D.C., and every member has the opportunity to get free unlimited fitness training, both strength and cardio equipment to suit whatever your fitness needs might be. Visit planetfitness.com. They are the home of the judgment-free zone. Like them on Facebook to find out about promos and deals. And last but not least, you are listening to 1570 AM, WNST Towson, Baltimore, and streaming live on the web at WNST.net. We never stop talking Baltimore sports. This hour brought to you by AAA Mid-Atlantic. AAA card gets you discounts year-round with big savings at Lens Crafters, Restaurants.com, or RestaurantSingular.com, Hertz, Penske, and more. For details, visit AAA.com/discounts. Reality Radio up next. Glenn Clark, Reality Check. We never stop talking.
WNST.net. We never stop talking Baltimore sports.
You would not want to be your engine's rear seal, wrapped around